Namaste. Once again, this is Jayachandran on restarting tourism. This is my third video about the draft tourism policy 2020. I have already covered 5 out of the 10 pillars mentioned in this draft tourism policy. I'm going straight to the 6th policy, which talks about skill development. Skill development is one of the most important part in generating professional employment and also the quality dispersal of services. It targets to achieve better speed, scale and standardization of services. Definitely, this is a key for the future development of tourism. Apart from theoretical preaching, what is being mentioned here, this particular section in the policy does not have any specific directions how to achieve this desired skills. The policy dreams about making the career in travel and tourism an aspirational one. To achieve this, the policy plans to adopt National Skills Qualification Framework (NSQF) for imparting training and various courses. The policy also says the development of curricula, capacity building for institutions, the training partners and assessment, certification of skills in synergy with the Ministry of Skills. The need of training for trainees, retraining, recognition of prior learning, etc. are some of the terminologies used, but without much details. Policy expects this to be done in partnership with the state, the DMOs and the stakeholders. But it does not specify which skills, how and who will impart training. The most funniest part in the skill training is these trainings will be extended to those who are already doing the skills. Here the policy needs more clarity by creating artificial skills for displaying traditional skills will make them unauthentic and the core value of such experiences will be gone. It mentions to include a great variety of the society, including the retirees, the housewives, street vendors, almost everyone in every walks of life to be included as part of the tourism skill training. In general, almost everyone in the society will be trained to do tourism services. In that context, we need to take the tourists to some other place to show the real authentic life in our villages, because people are not coming to see who are professionally trained and displaying things in front of them. People want to see the genuine, authentic life of the people. The ministry has not understood the core idea of their responsibilities. Are they business owners or facilitators? As I mentioned a few times in these messages, the tourism ministry is exposed of its not understanding its role. Ministry expects by having such kind of a huge drive on skill development, massive number of people that they can claim as being trained under them for self-employment. This is good for showing it in some of the publicity material, but in reality it will be an entirely different scenario. The Ministry of Tourism doesn't understand tourism is a business. It is not just a curtain to cover up unemployment in our country. Overcrowding of manpower without estimating the requirement will lead to unethical practices like low wages, exploitation of employees, and lack of professionalism. Remember, even now, there is no minimum wages or specific emoluments for employees in tourism industry in our country. The idea of a deemed university for tourism studies and research and creating center of excellences in all states is a very thoughtful idea. The draft talks about a digital platform for placement, but it has to do a lot of homework before creating such a framework, because it needs to answer a lot of questions on minimum salary, providing other perks and basic requirements under the Ministry of Labor. The only major recommendation of this draft policy, Ministry of Tourism decided to go on implementing is the tourism facilitators course. As part of the skill development, the draft says that there will be an online skill training for people from all over the country to become tourist facilitators. By using this clause, the Ministry of Tourism already started its action to dismantle the existing system of regional level tour guides in the country. In fact, I have already mentioned in one of my previous videos, the only tourism stakeholder which is having a direct control by the Ministry of Tourism in India are the tour guides, even though that also is a gift from the Ministry of Culture through the Archaeological Survey of India. The Ministry of Tourism have been doing a good job in the selection, training and giving licenses to the tour guides in various different regions in the country. But this particular incredible India Tourism Facilitators course, which is mentioned in this draft policy, surprisingly implemented by the Ministry of Tourism without any discussions, debates or consultation with any of the stakeholders in our country. When inquired and complained by the various tourist guides organizations, Ministry has given a vague reply that we consulted this with the stakeholders. Interestingly, Ministry of Tourism does not have any details of any approved stakeholder organizations as such in our country. So they are claiming that they had some meetings, and as per the meetings and discussions, they have decided to implement the Incredible India Tourism Facilitators course. It is one of the most damaging action taken by the ministry. It's one of the points meant in this draft. Remember, this is being decided when the global tourism trends are for great experiences of the destination they visit, and especially trained tour guides are the key to achieve that goal. The important negative points on this action is the basic requirement to become a tour guide in India now is a graduation from a recognized university. Ministry immediately diluted that condition that anyone who passes the 10th grade can become a facilitator. Second thing, they are giving this through an online certification program. Current system is a license which entitles a person to guide in all monuments in their own respective regions. But now that is being replaced with just an academic certification which is given after an online program. The third one is currently the licenses are given on a regional basis. Remember, India is such a diverse country. Even a small little child will know the difference of India's various regions and states. Such a diverse country with the various languages, various historical, cultural, geographical backgrounds, it is impossible for one person to provide the local experiences if they travel with a pan-India guide. And a pan-India guide who is just past a 10th grade. After getting into a lot of controversies and in legal battles, the Ministry of Tourism has given a response to the court saying that yes, we have changed the title from the role facilitator to a tour guide. Now it is called Incredible India Tour Guide. Still, the ministry did not have a proper definition of what these tour guides and what these tour facilitators are going to do. What will be their salaries? How they are going to get their business? For that, their answer is, we are going to provide them with a portal. From there, the guides or the facilitators can find jobs. Tour guide portals are there, nothing new, but it is already there in the system, which is getting very popular among international travelers to choose their tour guide through their expertise provided through the portals. As part of the skill development, the draft says that there will be an online skill training for people from all over the country. In fact, the present system of regional level guides is being very useful, effective, and providing good quality of service, and being lauded by many international tour companies as well as the Indian companies. They have a system of fixing their tariff with the stakeholders organizations. But the new system does not mention anything about what will be their tariff, what will be their fees, how it is going to be fixed, etc. There were so many questions asked to the Ministry of Tourism directly and through the courts. No believable answers yet was given by the ministry on this matter. In fact, how do ministry wants to achieve this goal, what they mention in this policy of transforming Indian tourist destinations to provide world-class visitor experiences by downgrading and disarming the most important tool for executing this goal. But MOT has been very adamant on their stand, both towards the tourist guide organizations as well as in the court. They could not answer many of the key questions asked. One of the questions is, even before this policy is being finalized, even still it is in the draft stage. As I mentioned earlier, this is only a part of the draft policy, which is not even discussed and finalized. 20 crore, 200 million rupees have been allotted and started acting on it. The course is already ongoing. What is expected from spending 20 crores of rupees by MOT on this particular topic? When several hundred thousands of graduates are ready to apply if there is a guide training program is publicized. What was the motive to downgrade the minimum qualification from graduation to 10th plus by MOT? Have they done any study on the increase in demand for guides, the footfall of the major tourist destinations in the country, before coming into such a conclusion? Changing the nomenclature from tour guide to facilitator, what the MOT intends, because tour guide is a most popular nomenclature globally and very easily understood by any visitor. The terminology facilitator is not anywhere used in the world. So what is the reason for the change in nomenclature by MOT? What will be the availability of jobs? What will be the salaries? Who is going to fix these rates? All these basic questions need to be answered by MOT. And it is the license, the authority to work, and certificate being a qualification to get a license. Dismantling the licensing system and bringing it only to a certification course. What MOT is intending on this decision is yet to be known. But the saddest part on this is the tourism stakeholders, the tour operators and their organizations are the simple mute spectators for this. They did not dare to come out with any comments, any criticism, or not even bother to go through this draft tourism policy and come out with some valid suggestions to get this policy directed towards the right direction. I'm going into the next pillar. Pillar 7 is marketing India. It talks about marketing strategy in sync with tourist journey of destinations of interest, search, research, decision making and booking process. Marketing of a product is normally done by the people who do business. Definitely during the time when we got independence until very recently, maybe last 2 decades before, the accessibility, exposure of doing business globally was not easy. Ministry of Tourism's efforts to bring the information on Indian destinations through the international tourist offices, what we have in various different world capitals, did a good job at that time. But tourism, when it grew into a bigger global business with all the modern systems of communications, the relevance of such tourist offices is just only a formal bureaucratic thing. And producing marketing technologies and strategies definitely should be given to the trade rather than ministry being a policy maker should intervene. Now the major share of the allocation of funds to the Ministry of Tourism is spent on marketing. Whether this marketing is being useful, it is hitting the target, what is the return from this marketing experiences, marketing expeditions, is never been analyzed. There is no performance audit on this. So definitely I think that the marketing Indian destinations should be left with the industry itself rather than the ministry directly involving in it. The Ministry of Tourism here can be a facilitator in providing access to various different markets, organizing India cultural events in different source markets and new markets, and help the stakeholders, not only tour operators and other stakeholders, to be participating in such programs. So the role should be clearly demarcated here. Instead, ministry itself is engaging in marketing activities. Ministry should be there as a facilitator and also a policy maker, ensuring that the quality and ease of doing the visits without damaging the cultural values of our civil society. MOT also makes plans for social media marketing in this draft policy. In the present scenario, this is a very questionable and controversial plan because the core existence of social media as an authentic platform is being questioned in India itself by our governments. So the MOT trying to use this as a platform to reach through publicity, and also they say that user content been used to spread the publicity. Since the Ministry of Tourism have no control over social media, it can also have a backfiring, because any elements which can manipulate the system and even have a kind of a negative publicity easily can be transmitted. So such kind of media should be used by private players rather than the government itself. This point definitely will be discussed at various levels in ministry itself before they come into a conclusion. Having a portal and mobile app, it is nothing new in terms of tourism, because already there are portals and mobile apps plenty. Tourism Ministry plans to have a portal and a mobile app in this draft. At many parts, the draft policy going very much away from the responsibilities of Tourism Ministry. It acts as a business party, like having a booking engine and a payment gateway by its own cost. Definitely, this is directly involving in business, and Ministry of Tourism is not a business concern. It's only a policy maker and a facilitator for tourism. So trying to get involved in the business of tourism is again of core responsibility of the Ministry of Tourism itself. It also mentions about organizing global travel mart, road shows, and other events in promoting Indian tourist destinations. This is already there. It's nothing new. Connecting the Indian diaspora spread around the globe is a good thought, but without understanding the needs for such kind of a marketing is another challenge in front of the ministry. Because one of the major challenge for various Indian communities in different parts of the world is good connectivity, good fares, and the frequency of flights. So without addressing such issues, just promoting and marketing our country in those areas will not do any results. Shooting films in India, organizing farm tours and exhibitions, these are all commonly talked about general things, which is also takes a place in the draft tourism policy. But of course, all these requires various different permissions and also various different responsibilities under different ministries. So how far the Ministry of Tourism can influence them to bring it under the Tourism Ministry is to be seen. Crisis management is another topic which is mentioned in this. But this is purely a responsibility of the state and local government. How far Ministry of Tourism can involve in it is a different question. Domestic tourism marketing is another important area in this policy. Definitely, Indian domestic market is a huge segment. Dekho Apna Desh and so many other programs are mentioned. But how far this Dekho Apna Desh has reached travelers to be seen. And mainly Indian travel is based on pilgrimage and also a small part from big urban areas for leisure. And another suggestion in this draft policy to improve domestic travel is to de-promote outbound travel. It assesses that the number of outbound travelers are more than the domestic travelers within the country, and it is still growing. So it aims to de-promote the outbound travelers, and it says that it also saves the valuable foreign exchange in the country. I found this a very utopian idea. It does not have any base, any sense to de-promote outbound tourism to promote domestic tourism. In fact, tourism should be seen as one. The Ministry of Tourism should be taking care of the entire tourism activity in the country. If they are only looking at the internal tourism movement, definitely the Ministry of Tourism must be renamed as the Internal Tourism Ministry, and there should be another ministry set up as External Tourism Ministry, which is a very wrong idea to depromote outbound tourism. Because if you look at the history of tourism, people started to travel to places which they want to cherish their long dreams, which may not be in the same country. Also, there are other factors in India. If you look at why outbound tours are very popular, there are so many factors. The one prominent factor is the attractive airfares offered by various airlines. None of our domestic airlines could match with the fares offered by international airlines to various destinations from India. Second thing is attractive land tour offers too. They know what is needed for a traveler and include all that into the package, so that the traveler knows that how much money I should spend on a holiday. Whereas in Indian packages, it's mostly covering only hotels and transport. And the domestic travel, either the flight or with the trains, it become a big hassle. Because many times the offers in the domestic airlines are for very limited number of seats. The moment somebody wants to book, looking at the offer, be able to get it. Second thing is the trains. There is the availability of trains throughout the country around the year is very difficult. You need to have at least 3 months before that you should book the train if you want to travel. So how many people can decide on their leisure vacation 3 months in advance and book a train? Unless otherwise we address these issues, there is no point in depromoting outbound travel to promote domestic tourism. So the policy does not look at the core issues, what is making the domestic travel affected, or rather to improve the domestic travel, rather than it looks at the outbound travel as a problem in promoting internal travel, which is actually a very wrong concept. In fact, outbound travel in a way also promote the inbound tourism for a country. For example, when you see a large influx of tourists coming into one destination, definitely there will be a kind of a talk in that area that, okay, we are having so much of people from this country. So that country's name and the places will be popularized slowly, and there can be a kind of publicity automatically created by the travelers itself. So we should try to explore such possibility rather than trying to depromote a tourism activity looking at the prospects of the domestic travel. The lack of in-depth knowledge in tourism activities by Ministry of Tourism is what is shown in these kind of recommendations in the policy. In my personal opinion, every kind of tourism activity should be promoted without considering the direction of travel by the Ministry of Tourism. Otherwise, people who are engaged in the tourism activities, both inbound as well as the outbound travel, will be affected in various different ways. There must be rationalization of airfares and having additional frequency of trains for travelers during the seasons of leisure travel. A special quota, which is already there in many trains but is very, very meager, and it, as I mentioned, it needs about at least 3 months before that you should book to get to avail a reservation, a confirmed reservation the train. Those kind of things that the Ministry of Tourism should consider to influence the other ministries, concerned ministries, so that the travel will be done with more ease than all these troubles what the travelers are facing now. Another area which may backfire with this policy recommendation is the airlines, international airlines. International airlines start flying into a destination not just by looking at the volume of business what they can generate from their country of origin. It also look at the return passengers. Outbound travel is one way of getting such passengers on their way back. Only both sides, if they are getting good business, they will be able to increase the frequency of flights to a destination. It also brings in competition, bring down the price for that sector. So airlines may not be happy if our government decides to depromote outbound travel. So they may decrease their frequency of flights to India. Ministry of Tourism shows a lot of idealism in this draft without having much practical wisdom and rational thinking. It also, this particular pillar 7 also mentions about the programs like Aditi Devo Bhava, Clean India, ensuring hygiene, women's safety, responsible travel. All these are being just mentioned without giving much details into it. Pillar 8 talks about quality assurance and standardization. Assurance of quality requires a great sense of product knowledge and also customer demands, the price, the value, etc. This policy, the draft policy, talks about it without having any such information with them. MOT has a system of recognizing tour operators. It puts the old system into a new bottle and present it in this draft. The Ministry of Tourism don't have any responsibility on the recognized travels who are applied for that. It only asks certain physical requirements like having an office, having a toilet in the office, and a few staff who is been having a certain academic qualification, and the minimum turnover, at least couple of years of existence in business. All these are provided in documents. The ministry will provide this recognition. But after that, there is no correspondence, there is no contacts. Only once in 3 or 4 years they have to renew it, this recognition. The only consideration what the recognized agents get is getting some subsidies for investment as well as for marketing. Only few of these recognized travel agents avail these facilities because they don't know. Many of them who are recognized by the ministry does not know what are the facilities available to them because the ministry never ever communicate with them at all. So how a ministry act with the travel industry even when those who are recognized them don't have any connection with them at this moment. Accreditation or licensing is not the answer. Everyone who is investing or working in the tourism sector must be having a system of registration without having any precondition other than a registration under the taxation, GST. That will actually enable the ministry to have every player in the tourism sector to be accounted for. And state tourism departments can be entrusted with this responsibility, and there must be a national portal where all this data is being registered. And registration fee should be a small amount, and the condition for registration should only be a GST and their details of their services they provide. And there should be a quarterly return, like in the GST, that a quarterly return of the activities provided with the number of travelers, their origin, their the number of days of staying. So all these should be collected at least at the quarterly basis and analyzed. So this will enable the Ministry of Tourism to have the track of the real sense, the pulse of the tourism activities in the country. This policy does not understand these facts. It still believes on the old recognition system into a new terminology. All assistance provided by the Ministry of Tourism should be made available to all registered tourism activities providers, and there should be a system to inform all these registered tourism service providers through a network of communication system, at least through email or other source. At the moment, there is nothing communicated. Those who are interested, those who have the clicks with the ministry knows what is there, and they will only apply and they get all these subsidies. So that should change. Ministry should be working under a more transparent system. And more than that, the ministry should think about defining tourism and its activities in a more legal manner, so that will enable the other systems to understand tourism differently and exclusively. I will be coming with the rest of the policies, the pillars, in my next video. Thank you for supporting me by subscribing my channel and going through this and making your comments on this. Thank you very much.